all day yesterday. You talk to anybody about anything at a barbecue. If you have any interest in sports at all in the Los Angeles area, it was all Kawhi talk.
Hey,
right?
it's frustrating,
you couldn't escape it. And as this thing continues to run, I'm just kind of utterly flabbergasted by this because everything that we know about Kawhi would suggest this is the least Kawhi move possible, right? And I understand the idea, and I'm curious if you agree with me, that really he was all set to go. And then the Raptors kind of out of nowhere end up winning the title. And that threw his calculus and equations into a mess. But even if that were true, virtually everyone else has made a decision by now. And I continue to float this idea, and I want to get your take. Is it possible that Kawhi is an evil genius and he is Machiavellian style, not the Tupac version, but the old school Prince Machiavellian, that he is actually trying to sabotage the Laker free agency season? Because look at the available free agents that are out there right now. I don't even know how the Lakers would spend $30 million plus on the players that are available right now.
Well, I mean, they'll have to overpay for some guys. But no, I don't think he's out there trying to sabotage the Lakers, which would be hilarious. So this is how crazy the Kawhi stuff's been, Clay. So I did my Saturday morning radio show last week, and then I coached my son's basketball team, second graders, third graders, with two other dads. The referee of the game heard my show and comes up to me before the game. Hey, heard you on air. Are we getting Kawhi? I mean, referees of youth basketball leagues coming up to me fired up about the potential of Kawhi with the Lakers. I still think it's happening. I think you hit on a good point. When he won, and I'm going to put air quotes, asterisks, whatever, because they lucked into that, Clay.
Correct. Okay. If the Golden State Warriors are healthy, then they go down in probably 5 games. Maybe they even get swept. The
Warriors
Raptors
crushed them. Yeah, no doubt. And then I do think that changed the calculus. Well, can I leave after winning the title and the parade? And am I going to be, public enemy number one in a whole country? And I think he's had to think that over. But Clay, everything lines up with it's got to be the Lakers. It has to. I just don't understand a scenario where Mr. Load Management wants to go back to Canada, play with some old 30-something guys, Kyle Lowry, Marc Gasol. Do you know how tired that team is going to be after winning the title? I mean, they had to go 7 against the Sixers, 6 against the Bucks. It just felt like a long postseason for them. I don't think they can bounce back with him. And I think the move has to be the Lakers.
I kind of agree with you from a pure basketball perspective that the move has to be the Lakers. But the longer this goes on, the more I think potentially that he is contemplating doing a 1-1, something along those lines with the Raptors. That maybe he just doesn't like LeBron. That there's some element of the LeBron circus that seems also the exact opposite of everything that Kawhi would hope to be able to do with basketball. And that ultimately this is a difficult decision for him, more difficult than he anticipated. But it doesn't really make sense to me that he went back to Canada, right? To me, if he were going to decide to stay with the Lakers, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe he's going to get on a plane today and come back. Let's start here. Do you think that it ends today?
Well, yes,
does he make a decision today?
It almost certainly does. But do you think it would have been a little disrespectful to say, hey, guys, I'm not going to come to Toronto. Just get on your private jet and fly out to L.A. and meet me. That would have been kind of a slap in the face of an organization that, you just worked closely with. His health was great all season.
I think the fact that he got on a plane and went back to Canada is indicative that he doesn't know exactly what he wants to do.
Yeah,
and I would say in general, wherever he is, they have a geographic advantage.
Okay. Now, how about this? Do you think, we don't know much about Kawhi Leonard. You can't find a profile of him anywhere on the internet. He doesn't give interviews. In a way, I wonder if he's in the process of reinventing himself. And right now, like the big narrative in life on the internet is stay in your lane, right? Pick a lane and ride it. And I just think that's one of the dumbest ideas ever. You've got to change and adapt. And somebody mentioned to me how Madonna, the singer, reinvented herself like 3 or 4 times in her career, and it worked. And she has had this long, incredibly prolific career in the music industry. She did pop in the 80s. Then she's like, you know what? I want to be a movie star. I'm going to go do Evita, which I didn't particularly like, but she was nominated for a Golden Globe. Then she pivots to Ray of Light, that like techno music, which I kind of thought was bad, but again, sold millions.
She also did Dick Tracy.
She did Dick Tracy. I mean, Madonna continually reinvented herself, and she essentially told her fans, you might like that 80s version of me, and that's fine. You can be stuck in the 80s, but I'm going to go over here and do this. What if Kawhi Leonard said, you know what, I had a good run with the Spurs, and this was fun in Toronto. Now I want to be part of a super team. I want to join forces with LeBron and Anthony Davis. I want to load manage my way to 5 championships. What if he just wanted to reinvent himself as, hey, guys, carrying a franchise? That's not as fun as it sounds or looks.
I think that that Kawhi, and again, we never really know these athletes, but I think that instead of reinventing himself, the world might be cycling around to the way Kawhi sees himself. And let me give you an example. I was out yesterday, and you remember when Instagram went down like in the last couple of days or whatever,
yeah.
and everybody was panicked, and everybody's constantly updating everything. I think in this age of, I think it's fair to say oversharing, where everybody is constantly letting at least a curated version of their life be viewed by other people. I think that there is a fascination with a guy who zigs when everybody else zags. And so you may be right about it reinventing yourself. Maybe he does want to reinvent himself in LA. Maybe he wants to kind of come back out in a different light. But to me, the world is almost working in Kawhi's direction, where he is more intriguing to me as a guy who doesn't constantly update me on Instagram, as a guy who doesn't constantly tweet every emotion that he has, almost in an old school Hollywood style where there is mystery surrounding celebrity. For instance, Leonardo DiCaprio's not on Instagram letting you know everything that he does all day long.
And that's terrible, given all the models that he
potentially, but he's like, hey, I'm a badass at what I do.
Right.
Maybe the greatest actor of my generation. You go look at my work, judge me on that, but in my private life, I want to just be a kind of a normal dude. And there are other examples of that, the George Clooney's of the world. And I kind of wonder if that could be Kawhi. And so if he comes to L.A., and he gets in this fishbowl. Kawhi, memorably in that incredible moment right before he goes out in the court when he refuses to give dap to one of his teammates. He seems to me like a guy who beats, moves to a different drum. And if that is in fact true, the Lakers with LeBron represents everything that Kawhi would hate more than anything. Right? Does 100%. Kawhi Leonard want to be asked about the latest Instagram post of an eye roll emoji that LeBron James put up? Does he want to join the carnival of excess that is the Lakers?
But do you think he would ever engage in that stuff? Or will LeBron maybe not send out that stuff anymore? I mean, he didn't really.
LeBron is not going to change at this point.
He's 35, Clay. You gotta move on and say, hey, I'm going to step back and maybe I'm going to stop doing the annoying social media stuff. Did he do it a lot last year in L.A., or he did it in Cleveland the second time around?
I think he still did it a lot in L.A., but a lot of the stuff in L.A. was off the court, right, where he was constantly kind of focused on other things.
Yeah, he had the movie. Well, they're filming Space Jam 2 right near my house. And I have
a
buddy I play, I don't know how much I should say, pick up basketball with, was on the set, and I'm texting him. I'm like, what's going on? What are they saying about Kawhi? They're like, nothing. It's like, don't ask, don't tell. People don't want to talk about, they don't want to jinx anything. People are very nervous that it felt, Clay, like Saturday, Sunday, Monday, it felt like Kawhi to the Lakers was academic. Lock it up. And then you're right. He meets with Toronto. What was it? Wednesday, flies out there, and it's been like,
and he's still in Toronto. And again, that question.
Are we sure? That's definite?
Well, I feel like the way they were covering Kawhi, it's almost impossible that he could have gotten to the airport and taken off and not been noticed.
Yeah, by the way, what's up with Toronto? The city and the fans, they're acting like 13-year-old girls. Hanging around a hotel, Clay? On July 4th, I know it's not a holiday in Canada, but just hanging around a hotel for a glimpse and a clap at Kawhi Leonard, that's pretty pathetic.
I don't think it's that much different, honestly, than there haven't been very many of these high-profile free agency situations where we've had like a tracking plane for their visits. But do you remember?
The plane is okay because that's internet. But I'm talking about
I'm talking about when he lands. Like, remember when there are two guys that I can think of who've been covered like this in the United States as free agents. One was Peyton Manning. Remember when he was taking all of his visits after he left the Colts?
Arizona, was it Arizona?
I can't even. I know he went to Nashville and was covered by like a tracking helicopter as he was driving around, and Denver. And he ends up obviously going to the Broncos and winning a Super Bowl there. And the other one I can think of where we had this kind of obsessive coverage of almost O.J. Simpson style, where you have a helicopter kind of following down the road and everybody's got live shots, was when Brett Favre was making his will I or won't I retire, all those decisions. And so other than those, I can't remember ever seeing a situation like this in the NBA. Now, obviously, flight tracking season is huge for college football. because every year you have basically
searches,
perpetual coaching free agency. Who's going to be interested in it? Who's going to be making that move? There are always a lot of chances of that being a major storyline. But I don't know. I mean, the more and more I look at this, the more I think that Kawhi is moving towards doing that 1 year with an option and staying in Toronto. No. And I just come back around to what I think potentially could be the greatest heel turn Machiavellian move of all time, which would be, what if Kawhi is doing this and he ultimately gets Danny Green to come back with him in Toronto?
And the Lakers get screwed?
If you're the Lakers, let's pretend, to me, the Raptors don't really have a ton to lose here because they've already won a championship. So if Kawhi says no, they understood this was the risk. They've already gotten a better reward than they ever can.
By the way, if he does leave, they're going back to the lottery. I don't think that's a playoff team.
They would go from 6-1 to 30-1 or more to win a title.
With Pascal Siakam as your number one guy, you're not winning jack squat.
And Lowry is on the downside of his career.
He's like 33. And Danny Green may go elsewhere. I just don't. But if Kawhi leaves, they're screwed.
Best case scenario, they become one of the favorites to repeat as champions. And if he decided to go there and took Danny Green, who do the Lakers sign?
You sign one of the Morris twins. You probably sign Kelly Oubre.
There's a lot of people
Everybody's
out there
gone.
right now.
There's
a lot of people out there
fans
who are Laker fans right now, waking up this morning, listening to us all over the country, because obviously the Lakers have a good national fan base, that are wincing at the drop-off between Kawhi and every other free agent right now.
But, Clay, LeBron plus Anthony Davis, that's the best duo in the league, right? You would agree. Best 1-2 punch in the NBA, the Lakers have it. Now, Kuzma, we keep forgetting about Kuzma. I think Kuzma, 17 a game. You got to watch Laker games to know. He don't play any defense at all, but luckily you got Anthony Davis, protecting the rim. I still think, and I tweeted this out yesterday and people were up in arms, when you look at the best three players on each team, LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Kuzma, I think is the best trio in the league. Now, after that, they're very thin. They are, Kate Moss thin. If you're looking for some kind of analogy, they have nothing. There's 6 through 12 guys are going to be very, very bad.
I think the question the Lakers are going to have to ask, and I think this is a bigger issue for the NBA in general, is I do think load management is an issue. And where I would say about, how many games did Kawhi miss last year? 17?
22, I think.
22.
60 games.
All right. So, I think the Raptors are probably telling him as part of their pitch, hey, we won the title with you missing 20 games.
How many other teams are doing that, by the way? Adam Silver has to realize that. Shorten the damn season.
I think that is a major issue for the NBA going forward, because I think the pitch for LeBron is, if you're pitching somebody to come join you and telling them you have to work less, that's an indictment of the regular season. And I think this is a major issue that they're going to have to deal with as we continue to continue Kawhi watch. Now, there are other couple of stories out there we're going to get into over the course of today. I appreciate all of you hanging out with us here. I'm Clay Travis, sitting in for the Dan Patrick Show. Usually, I'm on Outkick the coverage on many of these stations leading into the Dan Patrick Show. Jason McIntyre has a show on Fox Sports Radio on the weekend. We've got the U.S. women and the U.S. men both playing on Sunday.
Yeah.
Which is going to be, I think, a pretty cool story to follow to see whether or not the U.S. women can get the win there. We've got craziness surrounding, it's pretty funny, whether or not you get hit by a ball in tennis. Did you see this Wimbledon story?
Kyrgios against, what's his face, Nadal?
Nadal.
I haven't seen the highlight, but I heard about it.
I think we got some good quotes maybe associated with that we can dive into. And again, Kawhi watch. Maybe it's actually going to break while we're live on the air. If you were setting an expectation for when this news is actually going to come down, what would you say? Would you say at some point in the next 12 hours we will know?
I will say 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Kawhi will announce it. Or Woj will
news will break, which would theoretically be during our show.
Yeah, he doesn't, listen, this for a guy who I believe wants to build a global brand. That's all that's left for him. He's got 2 titles, 2 finals MVPs. Winning is great. You need to sell sneakers in China. That's where the real money's at.
But at some point, real money. Kawhi is going to make $250 million, even if he doesn't do anything off the court at all. He might stay. Oh, he's gonna. His next contract's going to be $150 million.
Okay, but when you've seen the charts with the breakdowns of taxes, agents, depending on what city you play in
terms
$35 million for Steph Curry becomes 15.
Yeah.
So technically, you're not. I don't know. It's kind of up in the air.
But I also believe, and we can get into this too, I think the salary cap is being totally... My issue with salary caps in general, especially when you have set salaries, is, to me, Kawhi should be able to go out and get as much money as somebody will pay him,
Definitely.
right? Instead, you've got this artificial construct on the top kind of hanging over his head. And I just question in general whether it makes a lot of sense.